Intelligence, Flo Kanpur brings to you this workshop on business and accounting, the two sides of a coin. Hello, and a very warm welcome to all. Thanks for joining us today, and we hope you enjoy this workshop as much as we enjoyed curating it. So, what is accounting? Accounting is often referred to as language of business. It is a means of communicating quantitative financial information to different users, be it the owners, managers, investors, stakeholders, or regulators, to help them evaluate the financial performance of their business. It provides vital information regarding cost and earnings, profit and loss, liabilities and assets, planning and controlling processes, and ensures statutory compliances. Today, we have with us Ms. Neha Goenka and Mrs. Yashodhara Bajoria, founder and co-founder of CA Experts, to enlighten us on business and accounting aka Munimgiri. After an MBA from Ohio University, a master's in applied finance from Monash University, Australia, and a CFA from CFA Institute, USA, Neha gathered experience in equity sales, banking research, and headed family office and investments for more than 10 years. In 2018, she founded CA Expert with the single aim of providing accounting services as a combined offering where compliance management and financial analysis go hand in hand with data entry. Before we begin, I would like to call upon our chairperson, Dr. Aarti Gupta, to please give the welcome address. Aarti, over to you.
Thank you, Radhika. You said it absolutely right that accounting is the language of a business. It's how your business communicates with you. And if you want to ensure that your business is successful, you must speak its language and there has to be seamless communication. A very good afternoon, everyone, and a very, very warm welcome. Financial accounting is very, very close to my heart. I feel every woman, whether you're an entrepreneur or a homemaker, you need to understand the financial standing of your family as well as your business. The workshop today is aimed at your financial empowerment, ensuring that you understand what the numbers behind your business mean. A number of you joining us today are great entrepreneurs, small business owners, or working in your family business. And while you may understand your business very well, and I'm sure a lot of times you are overwhelmed with financial documents of the business. A lot of us usually leave it to our trusted CA or some other family member to deal with this. This needs to change. We need to stop being afraid of our books and start understanding them. Once you understand the financial position of your business, you will be able to use that data to not only grow your business in the right direction, but also allocate your resources effectively. It is our absolute pleasure and privilege to have an expert amongst us to take us through this workshop and make sense of the financial jargon that is all around us. I would like to welcome Neha Goenka, founder of CA Experts, and her team. As Radhika mentioned, they are young but super qualified to take us through this workshop. We look forward to a great learning session. I would also request members to keep the session interactive and post any doubts you have onto the chat box. Yashodhara Bajoria, the co-founder of CA Experts, will be answering your questions immediately. So please do not hesitate to ask any questions or any doubts. Trust me, there is no such thing like a dumb question. I hope you all enjoy this learning session. Over to you, Neha.
All right. Thanks, Aarti. Hi, everyone. I think we've had a great turnout today. So I think Flo Kanpur has done an amazing job, getting everyone excited about what is essentially a very boring and cumbersome topic, or at least is viewed as one. I hope I'm audible. If I'm not, please, let me know that at my end. I'm going to start sharing my screen now, but I just wanted to give an overview and explain how we actually started CA Expert. And I think that by itself will probably, give you an understanding of where we are coming from. So CA Expert was actually started by Yashodhara and myself, sometime around 2018. We went live in 2018, and our client pool has obviously steadily been growing, touch wood. But I think the background to starting this, essentially was that before this venture, she and I both ran multiple businesses, smaller businesses, where we had freelance accountants come in to do accounting for us. And what we realized was that dealing with the accountant and then getting him to coordinate with the CA was such a massive headache, because the CA at the end of the day, especially in the India of today, has very limited time in terms of, for each client. There are about 1.5 lakh qualified CAs in the country today, about 2.5 to 3 lakh CAs, out of which 1 lakh are probably not practicing as CAs right now. And you can imagine the number of tax filers, payers in the country. And so that number is extremely skewed, and the CAs don't have time, right? Especially for accounting and data entry related questions, which essentially can make or break a business in many ways. And hopefully we'll be able to give you glimpses of that in terms of, during the presentation as well. So the point is that, you need someone on your side who can get those numbers for you, give you a perspective, and also present those same numbers to your CA, who can then go and head and do the filings. Perhaps you can even go ahead, get your books in order, and then go and look for funding. But the point is that anybody who doesn't know you will be looking at your business numbers to get to know more about you and what you do, right? Because essentially you can't tell them, hey, I'm doing well. Your numbers need to show that, right? And how you align your numbers, how you streamline that effort, because it has to be a consistent effort. And hopefully we'll be able to share some of this, the mistakes that smaller entities make when they start out, and these just multiply as you grow bigger. Because when business grows, you're focusing on the sales, you're focusing on the marketing, and you're focusing on getting those numbers there, right? So without further ado, let me just launch into
Neha, really quickly, there was a mention on the chat box. If you could be a little louder.
Oh, okay. Sure. I'm sorry. I'm going to try and speak a little louder. Hopefully, you'll be able to hear me. I'm going to start sharing my screen now. 1 second. So I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay. So essentially what we're looking to cover is small business accounting. And oops. Okay. So what we'll be covering today are, of course, how small businesses play a role in the India of today, some of the mistakes they generally make. I think one of the biggest mistakes, and we have seen this with a lot of our clients, is that we are focusing on few key indicators, performance indicators in our business. A marketing guy will come and tell you things like ROI, which is such an overabused word. But what you really need to see is where the cash is in your business. So we'll take a look at what cash flow problems SMEs tend to face, how we can implement cash flow management practices or best practices. One of the key aspects, with cash flow management is making sure that you get paid on time. Now, to get paid on time, the number of avenues to get payments from your customers over the last, 3 or 4 years has exploded. So, and that whole scene is basically called the digital payment scene in India. And we look to obviously, cover that as well. And then we launch into the Q&A session. And of course, we'll be really happy to answer any questions that come in the chat box. While I'm presenting this, I may not be able to view those questions, but Yashodhara is very much on the ball. She's going to be answering that. We also have one of our CAs, Vasudha. She'll be, I think she should have logged in by now, and she'll be there to answer some of those questions as well. So without further ado, I think small businesses basically run this country, right? I mean, 25% of the working population is, belongs to MSMEs. They contribute about 30% to the GDP. And there have been humongous, government efforts, Startup India, Digital India, so on and so forth in the last few years to provide tools and really be enablers, for the growth of this sector. But I think there are a lot of challenges in terms of, there isn't a organized support system in terms of how these small businesses can scale up. Very little information is available to a lot of the smaller businesses unless they have tie-ups with very, very good professionals, which then take up a lot of money. To really know how the scene is changing, and the scene is changing very, very dramatically, for all businesses in India because of the whole tech element coming in. And what it is essentially addressing is business, small entrepreneurs' inability to multitask. So, as an entrepreneur, when you start off a business, and I have been at the receiving end, and I continue to be at the receiving end of this. Yashodhara and I both, HR, marketing, operations, what have you, everything has to be handled by you till you don't have a proper team in place. And to have a proper team in place, you need to make sure that it's cost effective. You can't just keep someone and then use them only, let's say, for 3 hours a day, or for a few tasks, right? So how do you actually manage that? There are a lot of tech tools that are now available for entrepreneurs to actually single-handedly manage a lot of tasks on their own without actually utilizing a lot of their time. Of course, the reason why a lot of us are here on this call today is because as a small business owner, we are challenged to understand financials, to understand accounting, to understand key terms. And of course, we're looking to manage that. And the reason we are trying to understand, everything is because at the end of the day, we want money in the bank, right? So at the end of the day, you want your bank balance to be going up. But somehow, even though businesses are growing, the bank balance is in fact not going up, but it may even be coming down. And hopefully we'll be able to point out why that might be happening. What are the best practices we can actually adopt. And let me tell you, these best practices that you adopt need to be done consistently every day. So that at the end of a month, 2 months, 6 months from now, we actually don't we actually have the green shoots of all these efforts coming through, and our bank balance actually going up. And of course, not to mention, a lot of smaller businesses, when they start out, they tend to be passion projects where entrepreneurs will do anything to make essentially what is a hobby, or what is something that they're good at, to make it work commercially. But in the garb of thinking that this is all investment, and there is a gestation period, I think a lot of entrepreneurs then essentially fall into the debt trap. So again, I think once we learn that, we can manage our financials, we can get a handle on our numbers, we'll be able to look, maybe 6 months ahead or 1 year ahead, where you might actually know that, no, I'll end up borrowing a lot. I don't think my business will be able to support the kind of borrowing that I will be doing this year, and so on and so forth. So I think, essentially, if we are able to answer some of these questions today, or help you answer some of these questions today, I think, our job here with today's call would be done. I think with this, I'm going to launch into some of the mistakes that are commonly, made by smaller entrepreneurs. And as Warren Buffett says, it's good to learn from your mistakes, but it's even better to learn from other people's mistakes, right? So hopefully what we, present here today will be a good starting point for you to say, okay, I'm definitely not doing this, and then build from there, right? Again, if you change this today, you will definitely be one step tomorrow. So I think let's look at some of the basic problems. One is that when we think of, undertaking our business transactions, we always think from a single entry point of view. But what is actually happening in your business is always from a double entry point of view. I think you made a sale, right? So I made a sale, but you made a sale and the money has come into your bank account, and that is a balance sheet item that has got impacted, right? So where has that money come? Is that money in the hand, or is that money in the bank, or have you created a new debtor? Does someone owe you money because you made a sale on credit, for example? So that if for every action, there is an opposite reaction also in your books. Now, fundamentally you need to realize this, because there are a lot of softwares out there that tell you that, we're going to help you streamline your books. You'll know exactly what is going on. You'll know who owes you how much money. Let's say for something like a Khata books, which a lot of people um, have heard about and possibly used at some point or the other. Now, a Khata books will help you record a sale, and will possibly help you record who owes you how much. But your business has a lot more information, right? You have also made a purchase, and for that purchase, you have also made, an expense. You've paid that money, or you owe someone money, and you need to be able to see all of that in one go. And therefore, this is called a double entry system. And what a lot of software, especially a lot of the aggregators out there who say that, okay, we'll collect all your information and give it to you, they are all focusing on your profit and loss statement, but they're not helping you with your balance sheet items. They're all saying, okay, we'll show you where your sales are coming from, Amazon, from Flipkart, and so on and so forth. You can aggregate all that. But are they aggregating, your balance sheet items? Are they telling you who owes you how much? Are they telling you how much do you owe people? Are they telling you, what your net worth is looking like? Essentially, so we need to think of it that in terms of a double entry, and that's why you need to record your numbers properly. I think another problem where a lot of small businesses especially when they first start out, is that they are not able to de-link themselves from their business. And one thing that we definitely want to do is that we want to be able to put an arm's length relationship between us and our business, so that you can look at your business objectively. If you have a company debit card or a company credit card, and you start using that for your personal expenses, it will become very difficult for you to then understand whether something was essentially a business expense or not, right? And then for you to manage that, okay, I drew out, let's say, 5,000 rupees or 50,000 rupees or 5 lakh rupees from the business, and now I need to put that money back into the business. Because once you go down that path, it's a very slippery slope, and you can keep kind of going down that rabbit hole. So it's always better to maintain your business accounts and your personal accounts separate. This will give you a glimpse on what you are spending on yourself and what you're spending on the business. And your key performance indicators for the business will then be recorded more objectively and more adequately. Again, I think another thing that we do, and especially again when we first start out, is we always think in terms of maintaining hard copies, right? Like we have invoices, we have hard copy of an invoice coming from a supplier, hard copy of an invoice going to a customer. We probably make a note, or so on and so forth. But I think when you work towards either getting a loan, or to getting funded, or even to understanding your business, you need to have all that data somewhere on the cloud. You need to be thinking in terms of soft copies, and maintaining all your paperwork online. So things like Google Drive, Dropbox, you should be maintaining. Even if you get a hard copy from someone, take a photograph and put that on Dropbox, so that you can access that information later. And again, I'll come back to, before we started, one of the things, that would happen is that an accountant will do the job, but he can only do the data entry for the information that he has. If he doesn't have that information, he's only essentially going to pass that expense or that income as a suspense account. Right? And we don't want to do that, because if you're left with a long suspense account, essentially none of your data entry has actually happened. You still need to figure out that expense of, let's say, 5,000 that you made on your debit card. You still need to know towards what it was made, or that 5,000 rupees that is not adding up in your petty cash has of course got expensed, but where has it got expensed, you obviously don't know. So it's gone into suspense account, and therefore you don't know whether your marketing expenses were possibly higher by 5,000, or your salary outpay, or some benefit that you may have given to your employee of 5,000 rupees was higher by 5,000 rupees. You will not know that, right? And that essentially will impact your ability to present numbers, whether to an outsider or whether to yourself as well. I think another thing that as entrepreneurs we look at when we first start our business, is that we look at look at our business from a cash perspective. What has come in and what has gone out. But what is actually happening in your business is happening on an accrual basis, because you could be buying on credit, or you could be buying in cash, but you could be selling on credit. So essentially what is left in the bank is nothing. right? Because you are paying the cash upfront, but you're getting it on, let's say 10 days later or 20 days later. So you need to understand that, the cash that is there in your bank account is not a true reflection of what is going on in your business, because what is going on in your business is actually happening on an accrual basis. And when you do your accounting accurately, you are taking that into consideration. I think one of the best ways to actually, do that is, any loan that you have, let's say even if it's a car loan, right? And these car loans or housing loans typically, or any commercial loan, typically go on for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, right? But essentially what is due in that particular year, then instead of becoming a long-term liability, becomes a current liability. So that, let's say if my housing loan or if my car loan for my business is, let's say 15 lakhs, but 1 lakh is due or 2 lakhs is due for, let's say 2020, then I need to be recording that 2 lakhs is due in 2020-21, and I need to earn enough so that I can pay that off. But if I constantly keep thinking of it as a long-term loan, I will not be able to account for it or earn for it effectively, right? So we need to think of it in terms of accrual basis, and not only worry about what is there in the cash, not think that the cash in your bank is a true reflection of what is actually happening in your business. This profit and loss statement versus balance sheet, I can tell you for a fact, we have many, many, many e-commerce clients. And I think, this also comes down same to the single entry versus the double entry, because, so many of our e-commerce clients are aggressively growing their businesses and thinking in terms of the top line and the bottom line, but they're not necessarily thinking in terms of what is happening with the balance sheet. And you will never be able to have a sustainable business if you only think in terms of the profit and loss statement and not in terms of the balance sheet. Are your assets growing to support a business? Are there are your working capital cycles very long? What are the debtor days receivable? What are the creditor days receivable? You absolutely have to know which metrics to track. So, I'll give you an example. A lot of our e-commerce clients are either selling, through Amazon and Flipkart, or possibly even, through their own websites on Magento, Shopify, or, what have you, even WordPress and so on and so forth. Now, they are aggressively expanding sales. We have huge marketing campaigns, and when we actually see what those marketing campaigns are leading to, we are seeing that, okay, there is a, sales have really shot up, but my expenses related to the marketing campaigns are very high. And because I'm aggressively pushing for sales, I am doing silly things like doing aggressive cash on delivery campaigns, where the money is essentially not coming to my bank account for 10 days, 15 days, 20 days. So I'm constantly scrambling for cash, and that is just not sustainable from a long-term basis. So you are looking at your P&L, you're looking at your sales figure, but you also need to look at what is actually happening in your balance sheet, and match up the two, right? Again, staying up to date with reporting standards. Reporting standards keep changing. Now this is something that, let's say, you as an entrepreneur possibly cannot do, but you need to have an accountant or a CA or any other professional that you hire, who knows what are the latest reporting standards that are applicable. For example, let's say, with the government regulations that came in around April, when we had the whole post-COVID release, by the government, if I can call it that, TDS rates were changed. Now, once the tax deducted on source was changed, the TDS rates that a business has to cut when making payments essentially went down. Now, any accountant who's actually doing the data entry for those particular periods should actually know that. An accountant should actually know that when they are presenting a report to a bank for let's say taking a working capital loan, or just to take any type of loan, how those ratios are actually calculated, all these things will actually make a difference. So you need to be able to understand that, as an entrepreneur, for your business, if there are any changes that are coming in the papers, you at least need to have a bird's eye view that, yeah, okay, there was some announcement made by the government, and let me find out now from my accountant, what those changes are, and at least be marginally on top of things, if not completely be on top of things, because as you know, as an entrepreneur, we've already established that you will have multiple hats to wear in a day. So you can't always be the accountant in your business, but you can at least be up to date with your accountant in terms of what's going on, as far as the regulations that are applicable to you are concerned. Now, I'll give you a very simple example in terms of, what I mean by, being up to date with the regulations. So, X is running a small scale business. I think it's basically a cotton farming business for the last 7 years. The financial statements are being prepared by X the same way every year after year after year. And now there has been some problem, with the cotton, and a lot of the cotton that has been grown has destroyed. Now X needs to raise a loan of, let's say 50,000 rupees. Now, if you look at the balance sheet, right? So you have your liabilities and your equity, and you have your assets. Now, when you look at your current liabilities, when you go to the bank and you'll say, okay, my liabilities are current liabilities for the year 50,000, and my assets or my current assets are 1 lakh. 1,10,000, right? So my ratio is effectively 2.2 to 1, which is a good ratio. So the bank will be happy. Essentially, you can, to say, okay, fine, this is a good ratio. We can think about giving you a loan, because these are the kind of metrics that the bank, ideally would look at. But what has also happened is that you have an unsecured loan of 2 lakhs, and out of that, 50,000 is coming due this year. So essentially, your current liabilities is not 50,000, but it's 50,000 plus 50,000, which is 1 lakh, right? So your current ratio, which was earlier 1.1 lakhs divided by 50,000, is now 1.1 lakhs divided by 1 lakh. So that current ratio has gone down from 2.2 to 1.1, right? So suddenly your liquidity is not as good as it was, because you didn't consider the fact that you have unsecured loans that are becoming that of which 50,000 are due this year, right? So these are the kind of things that you need to consider, or your accountant needs to consider when we are preparing statements and so on and so forth. Oops. Now, this is something that I really liked. I think this is basically paraphrased from the Bhagavad Gita. I think some of you will probably know this chapter and this verse a lot better than I do, but essentially it says that, your actions become your habits, which in turn become your destiny, right? Now, anything you do, occasionally will never have an impact, or will never have as big an impact as something you do daily. So when we talk of accounting, and again, I don't mean that you sit and do the data entry, but in terms of providing data to your accountant on a daily basis, or on a on a bi-weekly basis, is something that is a really good practice. You should be doing it, and in fact, you should take a report from your accountant every week. That were my books updated, so you can take a look every week in terms of what your business has actually achieved in the past week. Because what you do on a daily basis in terms of understanding your numbers, in terms of understanding how what your business metrics are looking like, will essentially then help you take better business decisions, which in turn will help you understand, make better business decisions, right? And therefore we're hoping, of course, that business grows. Another thing that a lot of smaller businesses don't do, and I think, again, I will say this is related to businesses that suddenly explode. And again, I'm going to take e-commerce as an example, because we know personally a lot of e-commerce businesses have just taken off in the last 4-5 months. After the lockdown, a lot of people started going online, and they're really, they're beginning to see a lot of good traction. But like I said, if you're not reconciling the information, and when I say reconcile, it could be reconciling what's happening with your P&L, with your balance sheet. It could be reconciling your inventory, because you will understand that what your inventory position actually is, what your sales position actually is with your sales return position. A lot of our clients are surprised, especially our e-commerce clients, when we tell them that their sales returns are actually higher than what they have been thinking all along. I've had a client who said, yeah, my sales returns are like about 10%. We are doing much better than the industry. And we actually worked on his books. And a month later, I said, your sales returns are close to 25% and not 20%. All right. So 25% of your sales are coming back to you. You need to figure out what's wrong. Either you are not being able to ship it properly, or a lot of these are dummy orders and you need to, have a control on them. Right. So you need to be reconciling your data periodically. Again, this is again related to this point where we say that what you do regularly will help you make better business decisions, and will obviously help you undertake will help you grow your business essentially from a long-term perspective. um, Now, again, I think what when you're running different types of businesses, there are different types of metrics that apply to you. If you're running a manufacturing business, you need to be worrying about a working capital, but from a different perspective. Are you buying too much raw material at one time, or are you buying too little raw material at one time? Can you negotiate and get better raw material prices if you buy in bulk? If you buy it in bulk and if you're storing it, what are your storage costs? So these are metrics that you, or storage costs, or storage costs as a percentage of sales, for example, or percentage of raw material costs, for example, is a metric that you would probably need to worry about as a manufacturing unit. But if you're running an e-commerce unit, it would be very different. You would be worrying, as I've already mentioned, you will be worrying about sales returns, payment reconciliations. Is if I have a tie-up with a payment gateway like Razorpay, am I getting my payments on time? If I'm doing COD orders, then am I is the cash getting deposited in my bank every 2 days, every 8 days, and so on and so forth? If I'm running a broking business, and we have clients who are running huge broking businesses, they have to reconcile with their agents, with their vendors, on a fairly a periodic basis. I mean, it could be 10 days, it could be 2 months. It really differs from agent to agent. So those metrics need to be considered. Are you running a consultancy business? If you're running a consultancy business, your metrics would be more HR related, in terms of timesheets, in terms of keeping a tab on how much time is actually going towards a client. So you might think that a client that is paying you, let's say, 3 lakhs a month is actually a great client, but he's actually getting work out of you that might be worth 6 lakhs or 5 lakhs. And the guy who's giving you, let's say, 50,000 a month is actually getting work out of you worth only 20,000 rupees, in terms of the time that your guys are taking to actually manage the work, right? So you need to think of these things, and for every business, the metric is different, and you definitely need to nail down what metrics are important for your business. So you need to get an accountant who will help you understand that, hey, these are the things that you definitely need to track as a consultant, or as a as an e-commerce business, or as a broking business, and then you work towards optimizing those metrics. And I think one of the I think this is probably one of my last few points, that it's okay to be dealing in cash. It is not okay to be dealing in cash. Dealing in cash in the India of today has huge costs, right? Especially if you're dealing, or if you're undertaking high value transactions. And we've lost business because we've told people to do things by the books, and some other consultant has come along and said that ये तो आप कैश में करेंगे तो ये तो दिखाना ही नहीं पड़ेगा, you will आपका essentially you will save GST on it, or you will save this and that. The point is that the government is out there to be tracking, like how we have our metrics for our business, the government has its metrics in terms of tax collections. As recently as about a few weeks ago, the government has actually made changes in the Form 26AS. Form 26AS is basically, a form that we rely on when we are filing our income taxes. And any high value transaction that you undertake now will need to be reported in your Form 26AS, right? So if you're showing a, let's say, salary, or if you're showing an income of, let's say, 5 lakhs a year, but you've gone ahead and got an insurance policy for, let's say, 25 lakhs, they'll be wondering that where that money has come from, because that high value transaction will be reported on your PAN card, which will then be reported on your Form 26AS, right? So the government is really tightening the noose around people who are dealing in cash. And let me tell you, when you're dealing in cash, to convert that cash, from black to white, has a lot of costs and a lot of risks. So be wary of people who tell you that it's okay to deal in cash. It is not okay to deal in cash. I think there are a lot of legacy issues, where our tax rates used to be as high as 50-60%, in the 1970s. And of course, at that time, if you earn 100 rupees, 50 rupees or 60 rupees was straight going to the government. And at that time, we obviously started undertaking these practices, and these are then unfortunately stuck on. Now there is a lot of distrust on both sides, whether it's a taxpayer or whether it is the income tax department. But I think as citizens of this country, and maybe I'm sounding a little idealistic here, I think that for as far as things like tax are concerned, I think it is definitely more painful to be in cash in the long run than to be upfront about it. And I think one of the things I can definitely quote is that if you hear people like Narayan Murthy, or if you hear people like Ramdev Agarwal, of course, is one of the founders of Motilal Oswal, and I of course heard his podcast a few months back, and I would like to share this, that I think back when in 91, 92 they started earning crores in a year, and at that time earning a few crores in a year in a broking business was huge money. And a lot of the brokers at that time would hide their earnings because they could actually have a lot of those earnings in cash, and of course pay less tax on it. Ramdev Agarwal said that my vision was extremely clear. At that time, I was paying whatever the tax rate was. There was no reason to do tax kachori, as he said it, right? He had a long-term vision to grow Motilal into what it is today. And it started off with those best practices that he adopted almost 30 years ago, right? So if we are looking at a long-term game, and we're looking to be here for the long term, then we should not be thinking of evading, at least taxes and so on and so forth, at all. I think it's really good to be clean and, build the blocks as cleanly as we can, right? I think one of the things we want to focus on now is cash flow. I think Michael Dell said it really well, that when you think of any key performance indicator in your business, you think of that performance indicator as something that you would put on the speedometer. Think of sales, think of profits, think of any other metric, right? Think of number of clients, think of anything else, right? But if you don't have cash, right, cash is equivalent to the gas in the tank.
I think we've lost Sneha.
Yeah, I think we've lost. Has she logged off? Can somebody confirm if?
I think she's still on, but her video seems to be off.
Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to connect with her offline. So allow us a moment while you can peruse the quote by Michael Dell. Allow us a moment, please.
Members joining us, if you have any questions, even if it is not related to the topic which Neha is talking about, but anything else you would like to ask related to your business, please feel free, utilize this opportunity. We have two experts answering your chat questions as well. Just type in the question in your chat box, and Yashodhara and Vasudha will answer it.
Aarti, I think Neha has got logged off. Although she's sort of continuing with the presentation, thinking that all of us can hear her.
Okay.
But I've asked her to reconnect till then. It seems that even the screen share has stopped for her, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. So we just asked her to re-log in again. So allow us a moment. It's connecting now. So just allow us a moment, please.
Okay. Yashodhara, can you take the question? We've got a question in the chat box. Maybe you can just kind of, you or Vasudha, whoever would like to take it.
Sorry. We have a question from Shweta Tolasaria, and she says, I have two product lines. Should I maintain separate books for them? So if your two product lines, Shweta, are registered under the same company, then you don't need to maintain separate books, but separate ledgers and separate accounting for them should be definitely maintained. It will only help you kind of understand exactly which product line is more beneficial than the other. Also, I don't know what products you're dealing with, but I'm assuming that Shweta does, if Shweta is engaging in digital marketing for her products, then it would be very, very beneficial to actually get to know what product lines are actually getting you maximum business. So even when people think of digital marketing or Instagram ads or Facebook ads, just to give you an example, people think that, oh, I need to look for a digital marketing agency who will create these amazing posts for me on my Instagram, and people will see that jewelry and buy it. But there's a lot that goes behind it. And I think that that is something that you must quiz your digital marketing agencies for. So whether it's what kind of return on investment your ads are getting you, no digital marketing agency will tell you that. But until and unless you ask them that, what is, if I'm giving you 100 rupees and you're spending that as in my ad, what is the kind of return that I'm actually getting? Right from digital marketing to inventory cycles to cost of production, I think just having two separate lines, like just two separate accounts for that, would help you managing that a lot better, and to be able to point out where the problem lies. I think we have Neha back. Neha was at the Michael Dell quote. Neha, if you'd like to start from there, please. You're on mute, Neha. You're on mute. Yeah.
I'm really sorry, but I've been talking to myself for the last 5 minutes. I'm going to share my screen again. I apologize. I don't know how my network just switched over, but that's what's happened. If you could give me a moment, I'm sorry. So I hope my screen is visible again. Okay, I think I lost everyone here. Am I correct? Yashodhara, if you can help me out.
Yeah, you can. We were at this quote, Neha, when you.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Neha. You
Okay,
finished
so
kind of talking.
Okay, so essentially, I think when we talk of any, performance indicator, whether it is sales or whether it is, any type of, number of customers growth or any of these other growth, especially that a lot of startups are accused of in terms of, okay, now, we're present in 45 geographies instead of 5 a year back, or we have 1 lakh customers versus 50,000 6 months ago, or we have X amount of sales versus Y 6 months ago. We're all looking at the speedometer, but we should actually be worrying about the gas in the tank, and the gas in the tank is nothing but cash. So once you run out of cash, you can't do anything. You can't pay your employees, you can't buy infrastructure for your business, you can't undertake any sort of important expenses, and so on and so forth. So essentially what we really need to focus on from a long-term perspective is is the gas in the tank or the petrol in the tank, which is your cash. And with that, I think if I could move forward, and again, I love this quote, because it says that so much month left at the end of the cash, rather than saying so much cash left at the end of the month. And essentially that is where a lot of businesses end up growing, when they lose track of their numbers and they lose track of the cash flow in the business. And again, e-commerce businesses tend to be my favorite example, because we have a lot of e-commerce clients, and we have a lot of e-commerce clients who tend to struggle with the same things, which is basically managing the cash in the business, right? So how do you identify what sort of cash flow problems that you actually have? Let's say that are you receiving payments from your customers on time? Are you being able to pay your suppliers on time, or are you avoiding calls, or saying that, okay, I'm not going to take that call, let me take that call 15 days later, and so on and so forth. If you have EMI expenses, are you borrowing more to pay more? Are you borrowing more to pay your previous loans? What are your debt obligations? Going back to the unsecured loans, in the previous example, if you have 50,000 rupees of unsecured loans coming due in this year, then you need to plan for it. Is your business growing enough or generating enough cash so that you can account for that 50,000 rupees also? So you need to have a track of what is coming in, what is going out, and how you can actually manage that cash flow. You need to understand, and this will so essentially one of the things that a lot of people need to worry about, other than the profit and loss statement and the balance sheet, is a cash flow statement. The cash flow statement tells you what is the actual cash position in your business, and by how much did the cash actually go up or down in the reporting period, be it in the last 1 year, in the last 1 month, in the last 1 quarter, or whatever it is. You will exactly know what is happening, how much cash your business has actually generated at the end of the month. Because at the end of the day, what do you want, right? You want that I'm putting in 100 rupees in the business, and the business gives me 110, 105, 120, 140 back, whatever those return indicators are for your industry, right? So you want to be able to do that, and for that you need to be able to understand how much that cash is. Now, I'm not saying that in every reporting period, or in every month, or in every quarter, the cash will always be positive, or it has to be positive. No, because there are businesses, and in fact most businesses, where your cash growth will in fact be negative, where you will be pumping in cash, and the business will not give you the same kind of cash decisions, and what those business decisions are. You will be able to work towards a scenario where the cash that is then getting generated in the business is positive, and in fact you are able to transfer some through a dividend, your business into your personal account, which you can then use. So yeah, you need to understand what those best practices are. Now, we've tried to do a comprehensive case study. If you could bear with me, I will be reading some of this out, but I think as I read it out, hopefully some of you will understand some of the reasons why these cash flow problems occur, and they kind of sneak into your business without you even realizing that you are managing your cash inefficiently, right? So let me just read it out to you, right? And maybe when I'm reading it out to you, you may say that, okay, this is nothing wrong. And when we sort of go through with the example, hopefully you'll be able to realize that what's actually happened, and where Mrs. A has actually gone wrong, right? So Mrs. A has hired a team from CA expert to help her diagnose the problem areas in her business. She's a manufacturer of different boxes for school children and office goers. Although she has reached a high volume, right, selling 5 10,000 tiffins per month, the bank account is almost empty all the time, right? She does not have much knowledge of finance and wonders why this is happening. She's manufacturing about 10,000 units a month. She orders 2,500 usually every month. That could the wood or whatever it is that she's making these tiffins out of. She does this 4 times a month. That essentially comes up to 10,000 units. Now the order cost, right? So this is what a supplier is telling us.
I think we lost Neha again.
Okay. Aarti, do you think that we should probably stop here now for some Q&A maybe?
Yeah,
While
so
I just
Radhika, can you just turn on your screen and start the Q&A?
I think Neha is back. Is she there? Yeah, Neha's
Join.
on.
Hello.
Neha,
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I'm just losing everyone. My internet's really unstable today. I don't know what the issue is. I really apologize.
I think Neha, you are on mute. So if you can unmute yourself.
no, we can
No,
hear.
Oh,
I
okay.
can-
Okay, sorry,
yeah.
sorry.
So Neha,
Sure.
I just have a quick suggestion. If we can just take some Q&A right now, and
Sure.
we have some questions which Radhika can ask you, and maybe
Okay.
you can leave your email address and people can get in touch directly with you with some more questions. I think we've got a gist of basic accounting requirements and some stuff which can go wrong while we are managing our businesses, and some key points which we should try and take a look at.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
you?
So thank you so much, Neha. We had a great time and it was a brilliant learning session. We have a couple of questions which the members had asked on Google Docs, and we would like to present those questions right now. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, the first one was, what is the tax treatment for digital payments that we receive? For example, if I'm a home baker and I receive money in my Paytm wallet, do you
Right.
think I'll be treated as my income and it'll be taxed in the same tax bracket as my income?
Yeah. So essentially, we need to understand that if you're a home baker and, you are essentially a sole proprietor, and you will be filing taxes at the end of the year. If you are earning, let's say, more than 2.5 lakhs, and so on and so forth, you need to file your income tax, and up to, let's say, 5 lakhs of income, you get a rebate and so on and so forth. Now, the point is that, yeah, if you need to file your income taxes, whatever income you earn or whatever you earn through your home baking business will be counted as your income for the year. And you will need to disclose that, right? Now, when you get that payment in cash, up to you. You disclose it, you don't disclose it. Honestly, that's really what is happening. But when it is a digital payment, yeah, you do leave a digital footprint. That money does get recorded in Paytm. It does get recorded against your PAN, and it is evident that if someone wants to understand how much you earn through Paytm, they will be able to fish that information out. So you should be disclosing that in your income tax returns. Now, essentially, if your only business is home baking and you just started out and you don't really have any other sources of income, you don't even really need to maintain your books of accounts at this stage. When you're just new, you could undertake something like presumptive taxation, where you say that, okay, let's say I sold 5 lakhs or 8 lakhs worth of cakes, and as long as you are paying at least 8% of that as tax, you'll be fine. So when you have digital payments, you need to be paying at least 8% of that as cash, and that can get recorded in your income tax, and then you can pay tax against that. GST implications are different. So if by tax you mean GST, if you qualify for GST and you have a GST number, then yeah, you need to disclose that, and you need to pay a GST against that as well. But I will refrain from getting into GST and how and when you qualify for GST, because that is sort of opening a Pandora's box in that sense. There are various permutation combinations. So anyone can always get in touch with us on a one-on-one call, and we can explain to them whether GST is applicable to them or not.
Okay, thank you so much, Neha. The second one was, we know about financial statements, like you've spoken about the balance sheet, P&L, cash flows, but which one do you think would give a clear reflection of the performance of the company? In case, we are an investor and want to invest in a company, which document, which statement should we look at, and how to comprehend that statement,
I wish it were that easy. Unfortunately, as an investor, you could look at any statement and you'll still be duped, as we've seen multiple times in the stock market, right? So there are, as an investor, there are, on paper aspects, and then there are softer aspects, and that by itself is another discussion altogether. When you look at softer aspects, you look at, ways to target or understand, how honest, the promoter of the business is, and so on and so forth, how they are drawing out cash. As far as statements go, look, you obviously need to, you need to be able to read a P&L, balance sheet, and a cash flow statement very, very well. And then you need to understand, everything that you learn possibly, in your standard MBA, and of course, things like that, whether it's discounted cash flows, understanding how, what the PE ratios look like, what the, sales to market cap, or market cap to sales look like, and so on and so forth. So there are various metrics that you need to track, and then, undertake, or understand whether you should, a particular business is investable or not. Now, when you talk of angel investing and, what VCs do, their metrics are even more different, because they are not looking at your standard metrics that the guys in the stock market do. But in terms of the, I would say the base documents where everything starts would possibly be, the profit and loss statement, balance sheet, and your cash flows. Now, breaking that up and understanding analysis in various ways would be something that that you would probably need to learn on your own, or get help with.
Okay. Thank you, Neha. So my last one now.
Yeah.
We all know the rapid spread of coronavirus has led to a steep drop in economic activities. So
Right.
business-wise, like what upgrades in digitalization and in analytics infrastructure should be thought about in accountancy so that we are able to overcome this big mess?
Okay, so you basically want to understand what are the newer things that you can undertake as far as accounting for your business is concerned.
Absolutely.
Right?
How should we go about digitalization? How should we improve on softwares? Or, since one-to-one, the physical channels are all very limited right now.
Sure, sure. So I think that, when you talk of accounting softwares, there are over 100 accounting softwares in India today, right? So I think one of the most well-known ones, and of course, that probably has 80%, 70 to 80% of the market share is Tally. And beyond that, of course, there are a lot of cloud accounting softwares. We get a lot of work done on QuickBooks for our clients. There's Zoho Books. And of course, there's things like SAP Business One, and so on and so forth. The accounting software that you use would really be dependent on the type of industry you are in, the scale of your operations, and so on and so forth. Now, when you talk of digitization, right, there are a couple of things. Tally is a desktop accounting software. Can you put that on the cloud? Yeah, there are enough softwares out there, or enough people out there who can put your Tally on cloud, can give you mobile access to your Tally. We do that for our clients regularly. So, even if your accountant is sitting away, somewhere, you are in Kanpur and your, accountant is in Bombay, in Delhi, or wherever it is, you can still get access to your numbers. When we talk of digitization, I think one of the things that we should definitely do, and I mentioned that, at the beginning of the presentation as well, is you have to be on the cloud. You have to be storing your documents so that it's easily accessible for you at some point in the future, and of course for anyone else that you want to share that data with. So things like, Dropbox share, or a Google Drive share, or, even an Amazon Work Docs. These are things that you should definitely be considering, from a long-term perspective. I would strongly recommend that for the newer age businesses that are not specifically manufacturing oriented, you should definitely be thinking of a cloud accounting software. The reason being is that the reporting and the analytics provided through these accounting softwares is far superior. And of course, you get to coordinate more smoothly with your accountant. So we are doing accounting for our clients in the US right now. And so they are sitting in the US, but we're doing the accounting on something like a QuickBooks. And, the flow of information is really smooth because we've set up Dropbox, or we've set up a OneDrive account. We've set up a separate email ID for them, and so on and so forth. So documentation sharing and storage, as well as a good accounting software, these are things that will really help you get digitized from a medium term perspective for sure. I think other than that, if you are looking at, if you are looking to sell through multiple e-commerce marketplaces, such as, Amazon or Flipkart and so on and so forth, you need to be looking at aggregators who can aggregate that information for you. So something like a Unicommerce, and again, we are channel partners with them. You can get all your information in terms of putting your inventory data there, and then getting your sales from Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, and so on and so forth, everything aggregated in one place. So you need to think of these things because, data is the new gold, right? So you need to be sure how you are storing your data and aggregating your data. I think these are some of the things that you can definitely consider.
Oh, thank you so much, Neha, for solving our queries. Um, I think do we have time for more questions, Aarti?
Maybe one last one.
Okay. Okay, Neha, I also want to know that if we are selling on e-commerce and
Right.
like platforms like Amazon B2B, a lot of people face problems with GST claims.
Yeah.
Just how we can approach that?
So I think the answer to that is reconciliation. There you need to be reconciling your accounts periodically. Now, you know that for any business, especially if you're a GST regular filer, you are filing your GSTR 3B between the 20th and the 24th of every month. So essentially, you need to know that for the previous month, what were your sales, what were the sales returns, what sort of marketing did you undertake through Amazon, what sort of commissions did Amazon charge, and then reconcile all that information. Get your accountant to do it either on a spreadsheet or through an accounting software for you, and give you that information, right? So the idea is that for a single order through Amazon, there are multiple things that are happening. Amazon is selling that order for you. They're taking a commission. There could be some level of marketing involved. So they will then square that off against whatever you earn through them. And of course, whenever they take a commission, they are supposed to charge a GST on that as well. So you will get an input tax credit. Now, someone needs to be reconciling that information for you. Right, and then filing your returns on time for you. So essentially, you just need to get an accountant on board who can do that for you, pull that data down and do that for you. Another option, of course, is that you get these channel aggregators like Unicommerce, Vinculum, and so on and so forth, who can aggregate all your data in one place, and then you can pull all that information out and do the data analysis for yourself.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Neha and Yashodhara, for this profound insight. I'm sure we all have brilliant takeaways from today's intriguing session. Could I please have Aarti now to honor Neha with a green certificate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you, Yashodhara. Thank you, Vasudha, who've been constantly answering a lot of questions on the chat. Neha, we would have loved for the session to continue, but because of the paucity of time, I just wanted to ask you one more question. Would you suggest our members any podcast or YouTube channel which they could follow to gain more insights into these topics? Something which is very basic but could help them.
So, in terms of podcasts, there's a lot of information out there. I would just suggest, if you don't understand any particular concept, whether it is, a cash flow statement, or not even understanding, let's say, what gross profit or how it is actually calculated, just go and Google it. Not every source of information is good for every type of query you might have. I could tell you that X is good, but X may not be able to solve your query because it's either too nuanced or too simple. So go out there, Google it, find the answers. We run a blog as well, cexpert.com/blog. We keep posting information out there. I'd be very happy if people can post their email IDs here. We will send them a link. Subsequently, they can schedule a one-on-one session with our CA, with Vasudha, in fact. And Vasudha will then give them a lowdown on, what the balance sheet is or what a cash flow statement looks like and how it can be analyzed and so on and so forth. And we'd be very happy to guide them, because at the end of the day, as entrepreneurs, even if they were to read a cash flow statement, to actually understand the nuances of a cash flow statement would be very, very difficult in terms of constructing one on your own, right? But if you were to talk to us, we could at least guide you in terms of how you can read one, and then maybe probe your CA or your accountant further for more information.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Can I just request the IT team to put on the green certificate? Neha, thank you so much for this wonderful, wonderful session. You're part of YFlow. Yashodhara is part of YFlow. We honor our guests by planting a tree in their name.
Oh, wow.
This is planted in the forest of Sundarban in West Bengal, and you can track your tree with a certificate number below. So please only remember this session and Flow Kanpur when you track and see your tree grow. Thank you so much to the entire team of CA experts for this wonderful session. I would now like to invite my Senior Vice Chair, Kanika Vaid, to give the vote of thanks, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for this interesting and inspiring workshop. Heartfelt thanks to Neha Goenka and Yashodhara Bajoria of CA Expert for taking out this time and throwing light on small nuances of financial practices in business. I would also like to thank Vasudha from their team for answering our queries so efficiently. Thank you, Vasudha. I feel so much more confident. I'm sure all of us are there. It truly makes me believe that businesses may be reliant on these small actions to make the shift from a mediocre workplace to a thriving organization. A big thank you to our chapter chair, Dr. Aarti Gupta, for organizing these training workshops for us. Sincere thanks to our chapter chair, event chair, Radhika Lohia, for all her efforts. Thank you, Radhika. We are grateful for our sponsors, Balancia Socks, Lohia Corp, and Art Denox for their support. And thank you, members, for joining us and taking away such good tips from them. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Kanika.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you so much for this wonderful session.
Oh, thanks. I'm very sorry that the PPT didn't work out and the internet connectivity. It seems that once I've stopped the PPT, I have amazing internet connection. So maybe it wasn't meant to be.
Sharing of the screen also, which does that. So
But we wanted to listen to that story of that woman who was making the step.
Yeah, I was suggesting that maybe we could kind of, if everybody drops their email address, then maybe we could share that presentation.
Sure, absolutely.
Everybody.
If you could just give me the PDF of the presentation, I can share it with my entire chapter, if that's okay. At least they could go over it. And if they would like to connect with you directly, they could do that.
Sounds good. Sounds great, actually.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Neha. Thank you, Yashodhara.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for this opportunity. Thank you.
We've been planning this forever now. And I think there are a bunch of email addresses.
Yeah, so would you be saving this chat, Aarti, and could you share these email addresses with us, please?
Yes, Shudra, I have already taken down the email addresses.
Cool,
Okay, thanks, Vasudha, thanks.
Great,
awesome.
great.
Thank
All
you.
right, guys, looking forward. See you soon.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, everyone, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Radhika, brilliant. As usual, Kanika.
Fabulous. Radhika, you are so flawless.
Not at all. It was my first
You have to give more work to her now.
Listen, Radhika. Hi, guys.
Hi, Shruti.
Oh, sorry. Is this like, are we done with everyone else?
in the group.
No, we are
What?
only 4 minutes left.
No. I mean, like, Radhika, you were like, I think you need to be pulled up more, Aarti. These are like those hidden jewels.
No, there is nothing hidden about her. No, it's just
No,
that
like,
I am
in the,
front of her.
you see, nobody's comparing with Aarti. Now that I would not go to that
no
extent.
open book in front of her. I know everything about her. That's what. No hidden gems here.
Acha, I thought you're saying I'm not comparing with
No, but
Aarti.
we
I'm
knew
saying-
less of Radhika. Now we know so much about her more.
This is her subject. This is her forte.
Yeah, that's what.
Go to her for any queries.
No, but it was great because, of course, in these kind of events, you can't have like, firstly, the timing, and you can't have that many participants because everybody doesn't understand the subject. But
It was very interesting.
Covered a lot of things.
Like
that's what this.
Nalini, you tell. Did you get some
I really liked it. I mean, in the beginning, I thought it's not for me, you know,
Yeah.
but it was for
Where's
me,
Nalini? I can't see
and
her.
I
Oh.
could see the mistakes I'm doing,
Yeah.
and I could relate with some
so
of
nice.
them.
Hi,
No,
Chandni.
so
Hi,
So
Chandni.
here. Hi.
it was very good, and it is something that you know, like now I know that I have to rectify certain mistakes.
That's lovely.
That's
So
great.
Even if one person rectifies
that's
the
a good thing. I mean, and
the webinar is successful, right? Like if
No,
one
no.
absolutely.
It was
And Radhika,
interesting.
you were very good.
Yeah. And very
And thanks,
interesting.
Aarti,
Great
for
discussion.
doing such, you know, for doing these things. We all need it, I think.
Oh, no,
So
yeah.
many small takeaways from this. No, actually, we're all
For me,
whatever
big.
scale you are in, but
Absolutely. But creative people accounting बहुत खराब रखते हैं.
इसीलिए हमको क्रिएटिव भेजना पड़ा अकाउंटिंग के लिए.
क्रिएटिव लोगों को हम जैसे अकाउंटेंट्स हायर करने चाहिए.
That is why I've come now.
Yeah. You come after the event is over.
Yes. Ronita already had something on.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like covering it completely. But I really, I mean, I first thought that this is not for me, basically, or is it for me? But yes, it was for me. So
So it was. That's
it
why I
was
kept
very
like
good.
telling like it's for
listen, when we're seeing you rap,
or not.
2 years later, Nalini is going to be like fashion designer, book full like maintained books of accounts. She's going to be like
20,
Like,
25 years.
is there we are going to see her actually.
From now only, Nalini, put in the reconciliations from now only. Taki when like
Aarti's
be a sellout, then it will be.
I have to. I mean, there are so many mistakes I can see I'm doing. But it's, you know, one good thing is at least you first analyze your mistakes. You know, you
and you know,
take them
Aarti,
in your
when she
stride.
was
then
talking
you-
about that home baker, I was just thinking of Anika. I was like, Anika receiving these PTMs from friends.
वही mini question भेजा था. I need to know
Exactly.
income tax.
That's what I was thinking of Anika only. I said, इन लोग ने अनिका को सोच के ये बनाया होगा when there's a home baker or something, and वो बेचारी के account पे, how do you account for her also?
Hello, guys. Bye.
Bye.
And
Yeah,
thank you.
okay.
Take care.
Thank you, Radhika. You were very
Bye,
good.
guys.
Thank you so much. I had
राधिका मैं तुमसे ही ले लूंगी थोड़ा
I
बहुत ज्ञान
missed it, Radhika. I missed it,
तुमसे ही
Radhika.
ले लूंगी.
sorry, भाभी.
Radhika, but जो इतनी glamorous लग रही हो, accountants don't look so glamorous.
इसलिए तो आज मौका मिला तैयार होने का.
Absolutely. मुझे तो टाइम ही नहीं मिल पाया. That's why I kept my video shut throughout. So
I missed it, Radhika.
She's a glamorous accountant.
You can see it live on
Yeah.
Facebook. The entire event is there.
I-
Let me stop.
yeah.
And
To cover this